Children of the Sun, which is a game that kind of has a superpower, essentially, in a little way, not really at all. Essentially, you play as this character who is a sniper, and like, you only get one bullet, but you can move that bullet in the air a couple times.
Ladies
So,
and gentlemen, I present to you Children of the Sun.
and I played the demo. So let's pull up the trailer, and
Let's
then we'll talk about the demo a little bit.
pull up the trailer indeed. Okay. So here's the thing. I think this is I think it's a cool concept. I do love the
Mhm.
visual. So first things first.
Yeah.
If you guys are just listening on the Spotify right now, we are kind of looking at what's a good way to like explain this? Kind of like an early '90s comic vibe I get with like
Yeah.
these very bright kind of non-contrasty colors that it
Yeah.
almost feels like it all kind of bleeds together a little bit, but it's a very unique style. And I think like a good representation of this is like 1990s like TMNT comics or like
Yeah.
what's another good like comic from that era or like a Clerks or like something like that where it's
Yeah.
I really dig the style. I definitely dig the
Mhm.
style. But I think this is a game that a lot of people probably aren't going to understand what the whole point is until they really deep dive into it.
Mhm. And I would kind of agree with you. The art style of the game is really cool. It's very unique. It's not really seen very often in a lot of games. It's like a hand drawn like kind of feel. You know what I mean? The cutscenes are very like hand drawn. It's got thick lines. It's got like it doesn't have very much contrast, like you said. But essentially, what this game is a third person snipe or it's a third person puzzle sniper game. And essentially you play as this one girl and she's taking out the Colts, essentially getting revenge. I'm guessing like based off the couple cutscenes that I've seen, I'm guessing the Colt like either took her in and killed her family or something like that. The mystery is unknown on what actually happened, and you uncover that as you play. And like I said, you'll have one bullet and you'll be able to control it a certain amount of time. So once you hit a character or an enemy, you can then control where it goes next. And you get per level, you get a certain amount of those, if that makes sense. And then you'll be able to, like the game has you shoot different environmental things. So you shoot a car's gas tank, the car will blow up and you can kill multiple people at once. So like that's a way to kill people. And the more you go on, so in the demo, like you got different abilities. So after like level 3, you could change the trajectory of the bullet after like, and you can like move it in the air if that makes sense, rather than before pulling the trigger again. Um, if you hit enemies in weak spots, like 2 enemies in a row and weak spots, like you can then completely change the direction after your next like change, if that makes sense, like while it's moving. Um, and honestly, it's really cool. Um, it honestly reminds me a lot of a phone game. There's phone games that do this where you can bounce it off different things. You know what I mean? Like you have that kind of thing. However, it's really well done. Like I felt like the game, it's not a game that is gonna pull a lot of people in, but it plays really well. Like the way they executed the game is really good.
So you guys would probably know this is not like a game that I'm typically into. I'm not really a shooter guy. But I think it's really cool that we're covering this game because I think like we talked about, people are going to have probably different expectations than what this game actually is. So just real quick, this game's being put out by Devolver, and there's one person that developed this game, and it's
Rene Rother,
yeah,
Rother.
Rene Rother. So I mean, just to have a game that's, and again, we talked about this with Bears in Space, just to have a game that somebody put out on their own, is super impressive. So we like talking about these. But I think I think the trailer itself is almost kind of misleading for people that don't like to read the descriptions of like what they're actually kind of getting into, because you would say that this game is just like some type of tactical shooter, but it's really not. And a lot like what Adam said, this is very much like a like a trial and error strategic planning style game. And I mean, I think it's really, really cool, and I think it's a cool idea. I think it's something that fans of like puzzles, like puzzle games, are going to love. I do think that, and I never want to be negative, especially when we're talking about these small studio creators. I do think that this game is a game that has a shelf life, though. Um, how long can you play this game before you've had enough? Is probably the question.
There's two aspects of that. One is there's a leaderboard, and people are like they want to have the highest score. So the less time you spend in the game, like on that level, you get more points. The less change, like bullet shots that you do, you get more points. And the route you take to shoot these enemies, you get more points. You know what I mean? The longer the distance and all that kind of deal. And so I think that gives it some replay value. But at the same time, it's like I'm not somebody that strives for the leaderboard. Like I'm not somebody like trying to get that top spot. One, because I'll never get there because I'm not that good of a gamer. But two, it's just like it's not important to me. Like I like story elements of games. I like to beat it any way I can. And like the score doesn't matter to me, if that makes sense. And I think if you like going for those leaderboards, then yes, this is a game that's gonna be really cool for you and trying different ways to kill different enemies and things like that. Because so one of the levels I did was really cool. And so there's two cars. There's a group of people standing by another car that wasn't moving. So one car was moving, drifting around the corner. And so you have to time your shot to shoot at the car that's moving, blow up that car by hitting its gas tank, exploding the two people. So that car has to move in front of the other two people, explodes, kills them, kills the two people in the car. Then you have to change your trajectory to hit another moving car and like hit, yeah, and you have to hit them in their weak spot so you can get that change of direction again. And so you can hit the last person. And so that was really cool. You had to time your shots. And like, I mean, that's cool. Like, and why I think it has more replay value. It's like you can try a different approach, if that makes sense. And I think that's what's going to help a bit.
I'm excited that you brought up replay value because I'm curious to know, like, is this almost like a dynamic experience, or do these quote unquote targets always spawn in the same spot? Because that's going to be the problem with this game. Is I think that it's one dev. So we talked about it. It's one person who made this game. So the idea of having dynamic scenarios within the levels is going to be, in my personal opinion, just kind of very slim. So I think the problem with the game is that once, and we talked about the leaderboards, it's like once people figure out the absolute best way to make it through this level, that you're never going to beat that top score, because and there's going to be just like the perfect method to get through level 1. You know what I mean? Like you're never going to shave any time off of that. So even with the leaderboard, eventually once people figure out the best way to do the level, the leaderboard's kind of dead too. Unless it's like a dynamic experience.
And it's not. I mean, like you can kind of think of like Mario's not a dynamic experience. You know what I mean? Like every time you spawn into a Mario 2D level, it's always the same. You know what I mean? And people are always striving for that.
Yeah, but that's so, and that's where we see people, like you talked about the cheaters and stuff like that. It's like for the traditional 2D Mario, same level every single time. The true way to do it, the non glitching, non cheating way to do it has been done, and it's been perfected, and you cannot get that time down any faster. It's not possible, and it's like, the new times that are quote unquote better than that are people figuring out, types of like glitches within the code and stuff like that. So it's like, I don't know, eventually this game is going to have a shelf life, I think.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think it's going to be a very expensive game either. So it's going to be a game that like, yeah, I'll pick up. It's $10, $15 or whatever it is. There's no price on it yet. And I think that's fine because it is a small indie game. And maybe this game is just her stepping stone. Like, what can I do, especially by myself, before like I get into bigger games. You know what I mean?
And like we said, dude, like I think the game is cool. I think the idea is cool. I think like I'm a puzzle guy. I really love puzzles, and like I think the idea is cool. And again, it's a small dev, so I never want to talk badly, especially when it's one person making a game, because that is so incredibly hard to just make a game from start to finish. Especially by yourself, it's just so incredibly hard. And I do think the game style is really cool. The idea behind it is really cool. It's absolutely amazing that this person came up with this game on their own. But yeah, it does come down to price point. This seems like an experience for me that if this game is $10, $15, great. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to play through it one time. I'm never going to touch it again. And that's fine because I didn't expect anything else out of it. But I'm just worried about players that are expecting more from the game, or number one, not really knowing what they're getting into and being disappointed.
Again, if it's a price point thing for me too. Like I like the demo, but I think I might have got enough of how much fun I was having with it with the demo. But if it's 15, $20, sure, I'll pick it up because I want to finish the story, because the story, it has a good story. Like, you know what I mean? Like trying to uncover the mysteries and things like that. Um, but I don't know. It's one that, like you said, it will have a shelf life. Now if she continues to like release levels and things like that, then that's a different story. You know what I mean? Like she'll be able to bring people in, like always have something. But I don't know, as a one person dev, if she'll be able to expand on that frequently.
Yep. So I mean, guys, it looks really, really cool. I mean, we love to support small developers here. So, if it's something that sounds like it's up your alley, head to Steam. Add it to your wish list. We wish it all the best, and it really is a cool idea. And just a little bit more on the gameplay is like, Adam kind of explained it a little bit, but basically from what I've been seeing, and Adam, correct me if I'm wrong, is you're controlling this bullet. It hits one target, and then it switches to like this control system again, where you can control the bullet moving into separate areas. So it's a lot of very trial and error, like systematic movements to solve a puzzle, and I think it's a really, really cool idea. So, small devs, we love them. We show them all the support we can. So if it sounds like it's something that's up your alley, head over to Steam, drop it on your wish list, and show some support, because it's really cool that one person made this game from start to finish.